Today I want to show about the open source game project writing in Ruby. So I'm the Autoki and I come from Taiwan, and I'm a web developer and also be a game developer in part-time. So I'm working for the 5 times Ruby, and this is a company as a consulting in Taiwan for our customer. We use the Ruby on Rails to help our customer to build their products. So before we start, I want to talk about the background about our game and this open source project. Since the 2019, we start hosting open source game, and this game is start running in 2017 in Taiwan. This game is very popular in Taiwan and Asia. This game is made by Japan, so when they open source, we feel very excited because we never think a game will be open source, and this game still have their own copyright and their IP for their game. So this game is hosted by the CPA, and the copyright is under the CPA, and currently is under the CPA. And then they choose the A90 license to open source their source code and the game data. The game data may include some like the character card information and the value about this monster or other things to run this game. And the assets, for example, like the image and the size, is open source by the Creative Commons. So we have two different type of license to consider because we cannot change the assets. For example, the image and the sound, we cannot change it because they under the Creative Commons. And the source code, we can modify it. So this is very different type for our knowledge because we never touch we have missed two types and to run a project. So the first question for us is there have any maintainer, because this is a game company and they start running and they transfer their copyright to another company. In this case, is the project will be run as an open source project to continue maintain it, and they have some maintainer to update this source code. Yeah, but they did not have any maintainer, so they decided to open source. So we guess if this company did not find any good partner to run this game, and they went to try to open source it, and maybe they may have some new chance to make this game go back for their players. So when we know about that, we think, why not we maintain it by us? As a Ruby developer, I think I can maintain it because it's totally a Ruby project. And my friend tell me they have some resource about the server, so we also can run this game for Taiwan players. So when we start this project, we have many different players from different countries, like the Japan, and come from the China, come from the Korea. So we feel very excited because we find we have many players to force on this game. So we start to build an open source project like the drone, because the game is named the unlight. It means there is no light. So we think when we start this project and we try to build another new open source project, they like we have a new hope for this game. So we choose this name. To build a community So we have many problems to resolve. The first is build community, and we have to choose where to build our community. So we choose the Discord. This is a famous game community software. So it's very like the Slack. So we can use it to talk about how to co-working and how to host our game. And we also have another channel, and it can let us talk about our player, and we can get the feedback from player. And we also use it to talk with the open source project contributor in this channel. And we think we have to relicense to the Apache because the NIT license did not constrain the trademark usage. So if our copyright holder did not want others to use their trademark, we suggest them to convert from NIT license to Apache license because they have more limits. But this limit did not constrain the commercial usage. So it's also a commercial friendly project for this open source project. Yeah. And when we started working on this project, we noticed they have a lot of DSL. Yeah. So they have over 2,000 lines, 20,000 lines DSL. Because in a game they have many game rules, and these rules cannot store in the database. So they need to find a way to define this rule. So they create a lot of DSL to define these rules. It is very easier for others because they just learn about this game's DSL and they can create a new rule for this game. But for the maintainer, it is very hard because this project is started from the Ruby 1.9, so there are many old-style code in the code base. So we have to refactor it to the new Ruby version, and it also helps us to easier to modify this source code. So we add the linter, for example, the Robocap to fix the syntax because this is about 10 years game project. So they add a lot of different coding style inside the source code, and sometimes we cannot find any space between the comma. So it is very hard to read the source code. So we use the Robocap's autocorrection to fix this simple syntax, and we have by our hand to modify the complete syntax because we may find a very large block and a very large method. It is very hard to use the Robocap to fix it, but the linter can help us to build a guide and rules for our community and for our contributor. And we also add the test because we find a lot of bugs in the current version. So we need some tests to check this bug. And in other hand, this test can help us to have a safer to change the source code because there have many different ways and different DSL inside it. We cannot always use the human to check it. So we need the test. And our final target is build a modularized because we want to build a game framework for Ruby community. For example, the Rails is very well-known framework in Ruby community, and we also think this project can become a framework. And in other game projects, they can use the DSL to define their game rules, and it will make you use Ruby to build a game server more easier. And next, we will talk about some copyright limitation. Yeah, this is not a large topic, but this is very important in our project. And the first, because we may have a private server and because it's an open source project, so everyone can build their own server very easier. But the game content have the copyright because they have their word, their writer, their artist to build this game content. So we cannot open source it. So in this case, the private server may damage our business because the player may not like the official version, so they want to have some personal version. And this private server, if they can access the game content, sometimes the copyright holder did not allow it. So we have one proposal, and we will try it in the future. We build some OpenID or Open API. So each private server can access this game content from our server, and we authorize they use this data to create new rules and adjust the balance in the game. And it can help we get the feedback from player because we can know, for example, a character is too powerful, so some private server can change it. And if we think this change is reasonable, so we can merge it back to our server. So we have a private server. It also help us to improve our code base because if you want to contribute our project, you also need to run your own server. And in this case, we have to find a balance between the copyright holder and the open source project community because this is very uncommon case. We have a game is running, and we also open source our source code, and we have a copyright holder. They may want to keep the game word did not be changed by anyone. Okay, so let me have a short summary. There is nothing new to maintain a software project. So you can see we add the linker, we add the text for this game project because this project is a Ruby project, and we just use our best way to maintain it. But for the game content, we need to talk with the copyright holder. For example, our team is keeping in touch about 1 year with the copyright holder to find a balance between running an official version server and also open source our project to provide each one can challenge the source code to check each one not reasonable in our game rules, and they also can help us to improve it. So we also have some plan like add the cucumber to our game server because it makes the player is possible to write some rule check document and put into our source code, and it can help us to check the game rule. And in another part is the copyright holder may not want to change their word, and they may not want us to open more game content to the player. So if we have a new content, new access, we can run in the official server. The others cannot get this because they are no longer to open source. So we also have to find some way to build it and make this community more stronger and more stable. And I think this will have a high chance to become a open source game community in Ruby community. Yeah. So this is about my experience in the previous years about running a game, and this game also is an open source project. Thanks.